Seth, what's up,
How's it
dude?
going, man?
Man, absolutely great. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, thanks for
Absolutely
having me.
psyched. You guys had a fucking killer show last night. Holy moly, man!
Oh yeah.
How did that turn out for you?
Oh, it was awesome, man. It was just really awesome. It was a really great experience, and I'm just thankful that everyone came out and got to see us. It was awesome.
I mean, it's so sick as far as seeing cats that have a band in general that you watch live videos for, fests for, and they're going off. But I mean, you have Scourge and Fugitive. Are you noticing different little things as far as do you have a little bit more, maybe hardcore dancing to the Scourge as opposed to Fugitive, or are there different reactions, or is it just as absolute fucking crazy as the other?
Yeah, there's definitely different reactions, with Scourge being more of a hardcore band, hardcore act, and different, personnel come out for that. But it's
Sure,
both
sure.
shows go crazy, and it's a good time. Yeah.
Yeah. It's fucking awesome. As far as your interest, I'm so excited for this. I've been trying to, kind of look and see, and just, I always try to do as, research that I can. And I'm excited to kind of hear, like your personal interests as far as earlier, in the game, but then as far as, bringing us to today. So, earlier memories of music interest personally to you, where does that come to mind as far as?
Uh, Say it one more time. Sorry.
Early on, your first interest in music in general, where does that start for you?
Um, I would say probably with country. My parents introduced me to country at a really young age.
Oh
Um,
shit. Okay.
so yeah, I grew up in West Texas, so it was mostly
Yeah.
just like Waylon Jennings and Hank Williams and stuff like that. So
Okay. The
yeah,
Outlaws.
yeah,
Yes.
old stuff. Yeah.
Okay. See. And where did heavier interests, like, was that something through school, through buddies? Did you have
Uh,
family
uh,
members? How did that come about?
I have an older brother, and so he was getting into some heavier music, and all of his friends, and it was one of his friends named Jade. She gave me a mix CD with a bunch of different hardcore bands on it, and from there it was just kind of into the story, just kept going with it.
Oh, damn. Okay. What
Yeah.
was that like? Was that 80s stuff? Was that more recent? That was.
At that time, it was like, I mean, there was a band called Figure Four that was on it that I
Oh
really
yeah.
liked.
Okay.
Yeah, Figure Four was on there. Sick of It All was on there. Um, just some cool stuff. I think I was like 14 years old,
Yeah.
and so I was just kind of like, oh, this is badass shit. So just kept going with it.
It's wild too because like you mentioning that age, it was like my first real concert ever was seeing Pantera and Slayer, and it was on my
Oh
13th
man,
birthday. So like I
that's crazy.
think back to that, and it's just like, and Morbid Angel opened the show,
Oh
so it's like
damn.
it's insane just to think back of like certain things and like holy shit, like I was 13, or you
Yeah,
were 14, and kind of like having these like
yeah,
morbid images and different things that you're seeing. It's like, whoa, this is the shit.
yeah. Just crazy stuff at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now within like your interest, where do you end up picking up or or buying your first CD or cassette? Was that something that was along the country lines, or was that something heavier?
My first CD was a Hank Williams CD, and
Oh, okay. Nice.
that was I remember that was being a Christmas gift from my mom. That was a long time ago.
Okay.
The first CD, I can't remember the first CD I ever bought, to be honest.
Okay.
That's a tough
Okay.
one. Yeah. Uh,
Now, within that, like, did you ever, within country, like, pick up an acoustic? Did you ever do, as far as musicality, like, did you ever take on playing instruments before, getting into like singing in the bands, or how
so
did that work?
I play a little bit of guitar. I'm not good at all, but I try and I dabble. But I play piano, and I try to
Oh, wow.
keep up
Okay.
with that as much as I can. I haven't played in a few years, but that was my first instrument.
Damn, that's great.
Yeah.
I kind of like you have to salute anybody with piano because it's one of those things where even like myself playing drums, I feel like when you see it, like somebody visually sees it, and it's like four different parts of your body at one time. But it's like to me, the piano is so much different because you have the fingers, you have the feet that are going like
Yeah.
it's insane. Did that come with lessons, or was that like in the family
The,
that was something?
It started out in school, in elementary school, just like playing with like the music teacher, and
Oh,
then
okay.
my mom was like, "Oh, if you piano, keep going with piano." And then we did lessons for a few years, and then I was like, "Well, I just like playing the piano." You know, like I really did like lessons, to be completely honest. I was just like,
Yeah.
man, this is like, I want to go outside and do dumb shit, but I like playing piano.
No, as far as like us kind of touching on like the heavy elements, I think sometimes it's kind of fun to dig into. When we get into buying CDs or having T-shirts or just kind of personal favorites. And from you, I kind of wanted to touch on if you had a couple of favorite riffs in mind, with favorite bands, something that just stands out to you as far as in heavy music or country. I mean, country has some ripping stuff too.
Oh yeah, man, that's a tough one. I would probably say "Body Bag" by Obituary is one of my favorite riffs. Like it's just like probably the best riff ever. I don't know.
So sick.
Yeah, definitely this. Every riff probably in "Broken" by Pantera. It's probably
Oh yes.
probably there. Yeah, I'd probably go. This was probably my top two. I think of them, yeah.
Dude, I mean, like, had you seen Pantera before? Like before
No,
last night or 2 nights ago? Sorry.
I had never seen them before, and that was like,
Oh
oh my
dude.
god, I'm
Dude,
seeing Pantera.
that's insane. And it's. I mean, it initially when they announced that, I kind of wondered just with like I'm not a hater, but like I'm not the hugest Zach Wild fan. But I thought it was sick that they had Charlie on drums and like looking at it, they're ripping it. It
Oh
looks
yeah,
like those shows are fucking phenomenal. Like they look
oh
like
yeah,
they're
it was
doing a
crazy.
great job. So,
Yeah, it was
yeah,
great.
that's radical.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised. Like Phil brings it. Like he's still got it. Like it was awesome.
That's
Yeah,
so sick. I
yeah.
mean, and the Metallica too. Like you guys
Oh
got
yeah.
pretty damn close as far as because was there supposed to be like a pre-show then? Was that what it was?
So there was supposed to be some. It was like I guess it was like in the parking lot of the AT&T Center, but it's supposed to be all the four bands that played last night: Spirit World, um, 200 Stab Wounds, and Travel Gaze. And then the heat down here has been so insane they couldn't do it. I think it's been
Oh man.
over 110 degrees like the last like 2 months or something like that.
Oh my God.
It would have been carnage if that had happened.
Jeez. I mean, what's your cheat code for surviving this? For somebody like my buddy right now who flew into Texas for these shows. You have, like a magazine cover or some shit that you grab for a fan, or you just have to get used to it.
I just kind of just deal with it. Yeah, just drink as much water as you can. Just try not to get dried out and go about your business. Really, there's really nothing you can do about it.
Don't be day drinking, walking around with beer in the streets. That's probably
Uh,
a bad idea. Maybe.
Probably about. I mean, if you're gonna be drinking, at least drink beer. You'll
Yeah.
sweat right on out. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Touche. Now, what about some of your favorite shirts? Some of your favorite metal shirts you've had through the years. Last night you had the Biohazard
Yeah,
rocking. That was absolutely ripping. I love that. Love that band.
love it. Love
What
that
are
shirt. So my favorite shirt I ever had probably was a World Demise era Obituary long sleeve. But unfortunately,
Oh
I
man.
had to put that one to rest because someone grabbed it on stage and tore the entire back off it. So that kind of stuff. But that was probably my favorite shirt I
Oh
ever owned.
no.
Yeah.
Damn.
Oh man. I have a Pantera long sleeve I really like. It has like a really sick like panther with a skull in its mouth. It's badass. Yeah, it's pretty
That's
sick.
awesome.
Yeah.
Dude, that's like the best thing, and I think that absolutely carries over, with like your work in your bands too, like carrying on that torch of not only having something that's great musically. I think every once in a while you have like certain records that you just love the music so much, and then like the cover is just whatever, like bland thing. You're like, oh, this could have been like a whole package, but
Definitely.
Fugitive and the stuff that you guys have had, Scourge, the new record that you guys just put out, and the insane cover art on that
Yeah.
thing too, for sure carrying it on, and I love seeing that, and it carries over to absolutely sick merch too, t-shirts and different things too. So
Yeah.
the Obituary kind of sucks that got tore. What
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, was it like an acid wash, or it was just the grip that pulled it completely apart?
A guy just like grabbed the back of my shirt and just kind of pulled it back on stage. It was an accident, but it's still like, man, that
Son of a
sucks.
bitch.
Yeah.
What about three of your favorite music videos? I think this has always been kind of fun, as far as growing up in the 90s and having that era of, maybe a MTV2 popping up somewhere and like a random band like Fear Factory or something, popping up
Yeah.
with the music video. What comes to mind there?
I could say this with confidence. My favorite music video ever is "Davidian" by Machine Head. I love that music video.
Oh
With like the guy
yeah.
with like the flares like spinning around and stuff. Like that video is awesome.
I love that.
Yeah, it's such a sick video.
Shit.
Um, I'm drawing a blank right now.
That's a good choice. If
Yeah,
that's the one, brother. That's the one.
yeah,
I can dig
love
it.
that video. Yeah,
There's I mean, it was always fun too having that, and I think this is gonna go as far as the new singles, and having Blast Furnace with that kind of throwback feel, and it's still feeling like genuine, and it not feeling like it was just supposed to be a rip of 80s era or 90s era, as far as all the visuals. What can you tell us with that music video there?
oh man,
Just shooting it and how what went into it.
it was a ton of fun, man. We there's like this giant furnace on the south side of Fort Worth that we went to, and it's just like covered in graffiti. It's completely abandoned. Like probably shouldn't be in there at all, but it's like
Yeah.
it's just such a sick spot, and we were there for like 6 or 7 hours just shooting and hanging out, and it was a really good time. The guy who shot at Raul was like one of the nicest people I've ever met. It was a really really good day. Yeah.
Sick. And you guys, did you have it playing over the loudspeakers where there was like neighbors somewhere who were like, what the fuck is going on over there? What are they doing?
I mean, it's really secluded. It's like out in the middle of nowhere.
Okay.
So it's
Got it.
mostly it's like the worry of like, oh, is like a crackhead gonna like pop out and like
Yeah.
mess with us or something. It was
It'd be a
really
cool
funny.
extra for the video.
Yeah, definitely. We were shooting pretty late in the night, and these little kids out of nowhere just like popped up and started saying, "Where are you?" And it scared the shit out of us. We were like, "Where do these kids come from? Like, why are you here? Like,
Oh.
how did you get here?" Like, it was super weird.
Like, did you see them or you just heard
Oh yeah,
voices?
we saw them.
Oh.
Like we were just like,
Oh.
where the hell did you come from?
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, Jesus. I mean, we're gonna have to look a little bit closer at the video too and see if they kind of snuck in at one point, and further
Maybe.
down the line, people think it's ghosts or something. We can just
Yeah,
leave that in there. Shit.
yeah, definitely.
What about you discovering live music? Where did that come to you as far as the first show?
The first show I ever went to was like in a ballpark in El Paso, and my parents were like, we're just gonna go to like this music. But I couldn't tell you who played, but I remember
Okay.
just like
Okay.
running around and just seeing like this giant stage and people playing music, and I was like, that's awesome. Like that's really cool.
Good.
I'd like to do that one day.
Yeah.
But like pretty funny. Like the first like show I ever went to, like I remember like I bought a ticket for was As I Lay Dying on the Frail Words Collapse tour or whatever.
Oh
And
shit. Okay.
yeah, just a young kid just being like, oh, heavy music, this is cool.
Dude, that band came out, and I think they had like something that was a release before, but that 94 hours song and like the
Yeah.
bass, like the bass
Oh,
drum
yeah.
part, as far as always playing drums, like that was just a draw immediately where I'm like, how is this guy playing so fast?
Yeah,
And
that's
then
the
like
first time I've ever heard that. So I was like, what is this? This is super sick.
and it not being death metal too. I think that was
Yeah.
another thing that was like strange, where it's like I was used to it maybe with like a 6 Feet Under or something, as far as like really fast drumming, but hearing almost something kind of metal core, I guess, when we
Yeah.
were discovering that's awesome. Holy shit.
Yeah,
Did they like do a good job? Was it something that was impressive and kind of pushed you into music yourself?
It was one of those things where it's like, this is like crazy, I was like just a kid, like it's just feeling like this is like there's people everywhere going nuts. First time I ever saw moshing, so I was like, I think I was 13 or 14, and I was just like, this is like the craziest thing I've ever seen, and it just kind of went on from there. Like I think like a few weeks later, I went and saw Dead to Fall at like a little club in El
Oh
Paso,
man,
and I was like, this is the coolest thing in the world. I'm so glad I found this.
brother.
Like.
We talked music videos, and that Chum Fiesta video. Do you remember that?
I don't
On the
remember
beach.
that. No.
Oh,
no, I do remember
dude.
that. I do remember
Oh
that. No,
yes, dude.
Yeah.
That video is so awesome. Oh my god. I wasn't trying to cut you off. I'm
No,
sorry.
you're
Just all of a sudden, like I heard that band name, and I'm like, oh my god, I haven't heard of that band in forever. Holy shit, that's sad.
Yeah.
Where do you discover a local scene, as far as just something that's not so big bill, at stadiums, things like that? How do you end up discovering as far as anything, as far as local music?
Like growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So again, like just go back to my older brother's friend. She was just like going to shows all the time, and I was like, I want to go. And so I grew up in a small town in West Texas called El Paso, and like out there, it's like pretty, it's pretty isolated. There's not a whole lot going on, so you kind of just get what you get.
Hmm.
And a lot out there was like a lot of like tech grind and like black metal and then random just like metalcore bands and stuff. So the bills would just be like super stacked and diverse and weird.
Oh,
But I just
oh, okay,
I would just
okay.
go to like local gigs and just kind of hang out. Like this is awesome, just like live music and yeah.
You're
But
not
I
really
think
like necessarily thinking about it. It's just kind of more of
no,
the
yeah,
attendance
just
of it. Yeah.
yeah, this is just crazy. And but then we moved to Austin, and that's I think that's when I kind of started discovering like my local scene and getting more involved in music
Hmm.
and just kind of making friends and starting to start bands and stuff like that.
Was that a little bit of a bigger scene then? I mean, I've heard maybe the last 10 years that Austin's really big, like film wise and but music wise, was that more of a change for you?
So back in like the early 2000s, it was like pretty much a small town at that time. So
Hmm.
you could just go to a venue and there'd be like, 30, 40 people and there'd be bands playing like every weekend. So I'd sneak out and go up there with my brother and just kind of catch new band stuff. I started meeting people and kind of starting to understand like, oh, this is the type of music I like kind of getting in the way of like the shock, like, oh, this is like a, aggressive and people are going crazy and stuff.
Yeah, damn,
Yeah.
that's sick. Where does that introduce you into being involved in music? You have some buddies from school. How do you get into being in a band yourself?
So MySpace, actually. So when I moved to Austin, I was like, just a new guy. I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, this is like a totally different world for me.
Uh,
And I lived in a small town outside Austin called Georgetown, and I remember there was like a small band that didn't have. They had one song on MySpace with no vocals, and I was like, oh, I want to sing for a band. That'd be awesome. So I just messaged them like, hey, do you need a singer? And they're like, yeah. Do you like what kind of music do you like? And I just started naming off bands. Like, yeah, you could totally come try it out. And from that point on, just kept going. But that was
did
my
that like
introduction.
get? My bad. Did that get into like you guys playing shows and everything, or did anything develop out
We
of that?
we played one show, maybe two shows. It was very short lived. It was like a really it's hilarious. Like I think we were 15, 16, 17 years old, and it was like this really silly like slam death metal band. Like it's just funny. Like something I wasn't really into because I was naming like, oh, I'm sick of it all. I like all these bands. Like, oh, sick, yeah, you got the job. And yeah, it was awesome. And we played two shows. We recorded one song that I don't even know where that would be,
Oh
but
man.
yeah, lost to history right there. Yeah.
MySpace was like such a wild west too for different things
Oh, for
like that. And
sure.
you even mentioning that where like somebody tosses up and you can do something with like Bandcamp, but I think there was just like a desolate feel to MySpace and it being its own thing where somebody has something like that. It's like, oh shit, like I can message them and I can, like maybe even like reach out and like have a part of it. That's
Yeah, pretty
that's
hilarious.
hilarious.
Yeah.
Now, as far as you mentioned like sick of it all and some of the acts that were really like driving you initially. Where are you kind of testing out your boundaries with vocals? Like, are you just at home in a car? Like, what albums? I guess maybe even the better question, or vocalists were you kind of working on how you wanted to sound?
I mean, so like when I first started, I mean, I was literally just yelling as loud as I possibly could, just hurting myself every single time. um,
Yeah. Okay.
but then I really just like one day I was like, I'm just gonna like try to sing for real. So I just started singing Waylon Jennings type stuff, and a big one too is Lane Staley from Malice in Chains. Like that was one where I was
Oh
like this is
man,
like fun to sing and like try to nail, which obviously I can't nail, but it's fun.
it's
And then
fun, right?
so like that kind of like transferred like, okay, well I'm like, I love like the Florida death metal thing. So like that kind of like went into that and just try to come up with my own little thing. But I would say probably Alice in Chains is one I try to sing with the most.
Man, and that's like one of those bands too who could easily have gotten fucked up by trying to continue after Lane. Have you listened to any of the newer records from them?
A little bit, not a whole lot. What I have listened to is it's all right.
They're solid.
Yeah.
They're solid. There
Yeah.
are honestly some fucking bangers on those records, and you know, think what you will. You know, there's different things even in Metallica and you
Yeah.
know Slayer's later catalog or whatever. But I'm like, man, that without having the vocalist, that's a pretty hard feat to try to continue, and
Oh, for
that
sure, for sure.
band rules.
No, yeah, yeah. I love Alice in Chains. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
a Lane Staley super fan.
I,
So, yeah,
I was gonna say it's absolutely it's kind of one of those like weird like in betweens because it's like obviously you would know and like you would you know kind of understand you know from someone like it's just not him you know so it's not that I don't like it but yeah it's impressed me as far as some of the stuff that they've put out too and I think it was the most recent record God I can't think of what the name is but yeah Lane Staley is an absolute beast and
yeah.
I feel like he's kind of one of those cats too where like you see somebody at karaoke that's trying to do it and it's just like it just never quite happens.
No,
It's so
never.
unique.
One of a kind. Yeah.
Gee, now your first time recording where does that come into play as far as like your first time doing like a legitimate being in a you know in a studio of some sort versus you know the MySpace area or era that you had there?
First time like in a legit studio.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was
yep.
that was probably in 20 because all this early Scourge stuff we just recorded in people's houses and record vocals in like in a closet all the time. And the
Yeah,
first time
okay.
I think the first time I was actually like in a legitimate studio was 2021. So
Oh, okay.
whenever we
Recent.
did hardcore, I think that was Hardcore Up Your Ass, yeah. And we were just here in Fort Worth and recorded with Rubio and
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
it was an awesome experience. We would just drink whiskey till like 3 or 4 in the morning, just doing vocals, and it was great time.
Is that like a good kind of prep as far as for recording, you know, or
For me,
you know,
yeah,
kind of warming everything up?
yeah, just a nice hot toddy, and just kind of loosen up and let them keep going and going and going, and next thing you know, it's over.
Oh, dude, I love like it's funny because you know like I love these opportunities and especially from you know like playing music I love being able to hear people's kind of like just them warming up into something from whether it's you know recording or playing like a live show and you know I've had somebody even say that like a piece of chocolate and a fucking heavier like stout beer before a show you know and I'm just like dude I can't imagine like maybe it's a little bit different with other things but just drums for whatever reason like alcohol does
Yeah,
not
I can imagine. Yeah,
it doesn't coordinate for me. Like it slows everything down as opposed to helping. So
yeah,
right after, I'm all about it, but it's like
for
holy moly,
sure.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
you're basically like running miles playing drums like for a whole set.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Scourge, I wanted to touch on, you know, as far as the initial dawning of this band, 2014, 2015 kind of era. What is going on local to you guys? You know, did you have a lot of hardcore going on? Was there a scene going? Like, tell us about, you know, the initial kind of dawning of the band coming together.
The initial like Scourge coming together is the scene as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Scourge came together kind of funny. So at the time I was living in Kansas City and just kind of hanging out, and I randomly ran into this guy who I was wearing a Terror hoodie, and he was like, "Oh, you like hardcore and stuff?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's awesome." And he goes, "Cool. Like I'm from Texas." And I was like, "Oh no way, I'm from Texas." And he's like, "Oh, that's crazy." And he was playing in a band called Dress Code from Houston, like some really great, one of my favorite bands maybe ever from Texas. And
Sick.
he was like, "Hey, we're about to start this other band that sounds like Confusion, just like early, you know, New York hardcore type stuff." And I was like, I would love to do that. So I went down to Houston, and Jacob, the guitar player who I had met previously at a random house show years before, was playing guitar, and I was like, "Oh, that's crazy!" Like full circle type situation. And I pretty much like went into the practice space and they're like, "Okay, we're recording the demo right now." And so I had some lyrics written, just laid it down right then and there. But
Damn. Okay.
it was pretty awesome. It was pretty fun to think about. But at the time, you know, in 2014, you know, it's Power Trip is going on, like Manifest
Mm-hmm.
Estimation had just come out the year before that, and there's Back to Back had pre-release been right there, and there was a lot of sick stuff going on in Texas.
That's awesome.
Yeah, go
Go ahead.
no, go ahead. You're good.
No, I was just gonna say as far as like you know Power Trip and you know there was different other things too as far as like in the 2000s within within metal and hardcore and different things, but I think that was just interesting as far as, how you guys kind of come together and what, some of the draw was or some of the things that were inspiring from hearing, other bands that were doing stuff and like, yeah, this is cool, but I kind of want to, like you mentioned, like the New York, hardcore, kind of influence on things. And yeah, I mean, that's sick. Now, you mentioned this practice space. Like, was this somebody's house? Did you have to rent out a spot? How did that work out for you guys?
It was just a random practice spot in downtown Houston that they had been practicing out of for I don't know how long, but it was just like just probably like a 10 by 12 room, maybe a 16 by 12 room. But
oh, okay,
yeah, it was cool.
Okay, sick.
Yeah,
and it might kind of sound funny, but I think it's just something of like the small details of things. Sometimes I think it's fun just to hear, and just for other people that are maybe starting a band of like, oh, I need this air conditioned spot, and I need X, like
no.
Listen, man, listen from cats that are doing this shit. Like,
yeah.
You have a corner somewhere that's like not flooded. Sick.
Yeah. just rip it.
Yeah. Just go off. No, you guys just recently released Torrential Torment. Within this record, absolutely so sick. What can you tell us, first of all? I kicked myself in the ass because I was scouring all over looking for the artist who was on the cover art and finally found it 2 seconds after I just messaged you. But Joe Chat, what can you tell us about maybe some of the liner notes that you guys have given, or if there were any, for the cover art, first of all?
We pretty much just told we wanted like a hellscape. I think like honestly, I think what we said was like hellscape, a lot of fire, and like just like evil shit. Pretty much what we said. He was like, "Oh, perfect! I know exactly what to do." And
got it.
Got it. And he did amazing. I mean, I love that art. He did a really good job.
So fucking sick. Yeah. And I think too, it's like cool when you kind of mention that and then kind of give the direction of that, but then he comes back and has like some of the color that's involved too. Like it's I'm a sucker, and I think everybody is, for the black and white, or the black, white, and red. Like obviously that's a great move, and that's a sure go staple. But every once in a while when you have something that's like a little bit kind of off kilter, and there's a purple, or there's like kind of beiges and shit, it goes off, man. That's that cover for sure. It pops out.
Yeah, I love it. I love like the grays and everything he put in it. It's awesome.
Now, what do you remember as far as kind of having the foundation of this record, the initial maybe riffs or even songs that were sent to you that ended up becoming the foundation of this newest album?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry. I kind of got lost on that one.
So on Torrential Torment, maybe it was the initial riffs. What were the first things that you remember hearing from music-wise from this new album that you started writing out?
I think it was Meditations. That was the first song that Jacob had sent me, and we had done a live tape prior to that, and we kind of like went over a little bit. But I remember when he sent me the riff for that, I was like, this is crazy. and then from, I think the second one I remember was he sent me just like the bass stuff for Torrential Torment, the title track. And I was like, whoa, like that's awesome. We kind of talked about how we wanted like the record to just come out with, just some aggression and speed just right out the gate. And Jacob
does.
Yeah. Nailed it. Yeah.
I was going to mention too, because Meditation was one of the tracks I had written down, a couple that were just personal favorites, and that being absolutely one of them. That track comes on, I'm like, oh shit, man! Like it's so cool. And there's just like different times where I think it's like a dawning of like there is still such awesome shit going on, and I'm so happy to be alive just to be able to experience it. And moments in Fugitive, I'm absolutely like in the middle of that. And you touched on Meditation a little bit. That was one of my favorites. Another being Peasants Revolt. What can you tell us about possibly a story behind that, or just whatever comes to mind with that track?
So in Meditations, that was just kind of thinking back on like living in El Paso and like living on the Rio Grande, and just kind of like thinking about that type of like just memories and what went on during the time when I was there. Peasants Revolt, I wrote pretty much during 2020 when the world was going crazy, and it was just chaos and pretty much just like walked to my apartment, nothing to do. I was like, well, I'm just gonna write this.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Not too much detail to it, but yeah.
No, I love it. I mean, it's like weird thinking of those times too, and like reflecting back on just like how empty a lot felt, and
Yeah.
you're like just different ways of how people were kind of dealing with that or coping with that, and and also like writing. I mean, it was a good time to just be able to sit down and write something in this like desolate era of life in general.
Yeah.
What was a personal favorite to you off of the record?
I really loved writing Blood Drenched Sun.
Oh,
That was a fun one.
dude.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was a fun one just to kind of like write and kind of like lay down in the studio. Torrential Torment, that was another one. Um,
Fuck.
well, I honestly Flagellation too. Like that one came together really nicely. Just like being there, and it was funny. Like I had an initial idea for it, and Jacob was like, "Let's try this," and it was like, "Oh yeah, like that's so sick." And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Now, do you have anything like anybody? You just mentioned Jake, and I think this just made me think of like different times where you lay something down and there's somebody in the band where you're like, "Yo, this doesn't sound like it's like hitting the right kind of tempo, or maybe the fill." Is there somebody in particular that you're kind of talking to, or is that something that you go back and you kind of retrack and step out yourself?
With Scourge, I mean, it's kind of like we just, we do our own individual thing. We'll have a meeting of the mind if something is like obviously way off, but
Hmm.
mostly it's just kind of like we'll do our parts and go with it. It's
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Cool. With I mean, and that new record. I mean, like I know you guys were just did what fest? Oh my God, I'm fucking blanking
Sound
right
and
now.
Fury.
Sound and Fury. Yeah,
Hmm.
that set was absolutely sick too. And was that the first time that you guys had done anything off of this album, or or was there? Trying to think of the timeline here.
We played a few shows. We had a record release in Houston a few months
Oh,
before.
okay.
But
Okay.
that was our first out of state show off the record. Yeah,
Okay. Damn,
and
that is
it was
insane.
it was awesome. I mean, Madison and Martine did an amazing job. Like that was an amazing experience. I'll never forget that. That was great.
That fest always seems like somehow it like outdoes itself from the year before and just gets better and has like solid acts all the fucking time
They
and so
do a
much
really good
dirt and
job.
dust.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. There's a lot of dirt and dust. My nose was all caked up in mud, and it was awesome. It was great.
I feel like something about like that fest feels like it's made for thrash or like a Scourge type, like circle pit band, to where like you start seeing that cloud and it's like, okay, like we've done our job. We've done what we were supposed to do here.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was a good time.
God. All right. So from here, I wanted to dig into Fugitive, and just as far as the stuff that you guys have released, from kind of seeing this dawning and being able to talk with Blake and then Lincoln, and I wanted to talk, as far as your experience with the band here, and the first conversation that you remember as far as this coming about, and your involvement with Fugitive.
Uh, the first conversation was Blake and I were at breakfast, and it was during 2020, and there was nothing to do, so we just like ride bikes around all day long. I mean, it's all we did. Just ride bikes, just hang out. Really, couldn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And one day there's one restaurant down in Fort Worth that has like a pretty good Irish breakfast. And like let's just go there. And so we went and got that, and he was just like, "Do you want to start another band?" And I was like, "Man, fuck it, let's start another band." And so after that, he just started forming the band, and all she wrote, really. I mean, just kept going from there.
That's
Yeah.
it. Damn. That's so sick. Now
Go ahead.
I'm trying to remember, because I feel like I maybe had asked Blake. I can't remember. Had you guys known each other for a long time? I mean, obviously in Texas, and it's a huge place, but you have these cities like that. Like it's pretty close and pretty close knit. Had you known Blake for a long time prior to?
I've known Blake since 2009 was the first time I met him.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So we became friends, I would say near towards, I would say probably 2013. And then from there on, just kept starting becoming closer friends. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Sweet. within, you guys having these conversations and, this first EP that we ended up getting, what was the first, ingredients that you were hearing of this? Was there riffs that were sent? Was it whole songs that were sent? What were you hearing?
So after we had that conversation, I think it might have been a day or two later. He was like, "Hey, I have these songs written. Do you want to like hear them?" And it was
what?
Yeah. It was Maniac, Neutralize Hell's Half Acre, and right, and the Javelin. Yeah, I mean, maybe it wasn't Hell's Half Acre. It might have been Javelin. Yeah, but he sent me 3 songs, and I was like, "Yeah, let's get to work."
That he had already written, or he wrote like after this conversation?
I think after the conversation, he went home and just started organizing the songs. Yeah,
motherfucker, man.
yeah,
Damn. Like, it's so sick. I love that, dude. Like, people like that too every once in a while. It's just like, I just want to give you a noogie, man, because like it's ridiculous that you just are like, oh yeah, maybe I'll just go and mess around, and you toss out something that's absolutely sick. Like, it is ridiculous. Holy shit, I love that. In an interview with Blake, I remember hearing something about him mentioning you, kind of putting some touches of urban legends, in Fort Worth in some of your work. What can you tell us about some of this stuff as far as what this is touched on in Fugitive?
So Fort Worth back in the day was it's called the beginning of the West or something along those lines, where the West begins. And it was a big cattle drive area. It's where the railroad, I think, had started to end at that time. Like, they hadn't really built out into the West yet. And so you just had like a huge conglomerate of different type of people coming together. And I guess at one point, Fort Worth became like a really gnarly, dangerous place. And there's a legend that it was the red light district, and there's just violence everywhere. And I guess like something happened where a lady was nailed to a wall. And that's in the song Hell's Half Acre, and it's like, man, it was just a place of debauchery, lawless, just Old West stuff,
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Holy shit. That's insane. I was like, I was trying to, kind of dig into different things and listen, as far as different, like interviews or reading things. And I heard him mention that. I'm like, oh shit, we have to dig into this. Like, I got to hear that. I mean, like, do you read into different like history as far as, local cities and things like that too? Or is it something that like you came across in like a documentary? Or how'd you come across that?
I'm just a history nerd, and I was just thinking like,
love that. Okay.
I just need to read about Fort Worth, and just started learning. I was like, found a bunch of crazy history, and that's pretty much the gist of it. Yeah, I just like to read about history. I also really love like Southwest type history, like Old West type stuff. So it kind of all fell together, and yeah.
Man, that's sick. I love where as far as the EP, and you mentioned those initial 3 songs. Did you guys did you kind of work from that point and then go into the studio and record the other 2 songs, or like because like the Javelin, and there was maybe one other that you didn't mention? You had 5 initially, yes, right?
We also covered "Raise the Dead" by Battery.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, yeah. So you had the cover. Okay,
yeah.
All right. And then did you go back and polish it up as far as redoing like a recording, or because Blake produced the initial EP, right?
Yeah. So what we did do you want to hear like a whole process of how it came about? Is that what you're
yes.
Asking? Okay. So we basically just like went to his office and got to work and just knocked them out and had fun just writing the songs out and getting them all organized. And I think it was not too long after that we went to the studio and just knocked them out.
Oh, okay. Damn.
Yeah.
That's and you're just kind of like along the process as far as like him messaging you too, as far as with the Javelin as well, or was that something that was kind of like tossed together like while you were in the studio too, or?
I believe he had the riff written, and then he and Lincoln just got together and nailed it down and went from there. Yeah.
Damn, that's sick. If you can freshen up as far as the name Fugitive, where did that come from? I'm having
Blake
a fucking brain fart.
Blake came up with the name. We were sitting at breakfast that same morning. It was like, what would you want to call it? We got into the weeds, just kind of going over everything, and I was like, how do you feel about the name Fugitive? And I was like, that's a sick man. And so,
So sick.
yeah, it's been a very smooth, like organic process. Like it's just been kind of like, oh, we'll do this, and it's been going great so far.
You know, and I mean, I'm sure you can contest to this over years of having different things, and not necessarily to slam anything, but it's like you kind of go through those processes where it's like, why does it have to be this hard? You know, when you have like a situation like this, or you know, even mention it with Skourge where you know, things are pretty much smooth and just kind of like work out. Like you can't ask for more. You know, you
No,
having some of the boys and just going out and having some drinks and playing
yeah,
shows and like
just having
everything
fun.
gets well, and man, that's so
Yeah,
sick. I love it.
I mean,
I love it.
not to sound cliche, but I think the thing is just like, I mean, just don't take it too serious. Just have fun, and
Totally.
it'll be better that way. Like I don't know, don't be stressed out about it. It's fun. It's art.
It's
You
a
know, it's
good
cool.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. No, and within the band too, I wanted to kind of touch on what yeah, and you don't have to go, you know, full circle into telling every detail, but I wanted to kind of touch on, you know, each of the tracks. So you guys had the initial EP, and then you just put out the two singles there. But within Maniac, you know, maybe the first thing that comes to the top of your head, maybe the story behind writing that track. What comes to mind?
Um, that one was just like a life that. So like that song is about a situation where I was really drunk, and a friend of mine was getting arrested, and I was just being like, "Don't arrest him! Like leave him alone." So I ended up getting arrested,
Oh
and
no.
it was just like this whole debacle, and it was like, man, that was like the worst time of my life. And I'm never gonna do that again.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, never going back.
Was this just like a one night stand thing where
It,
you got out in the morning, or did it
it
turn
was
into more?
it was like 27 hours or something like that.
Okay.
It was terrible.
More than enough.
More than enough. Yeah.
Shit. What about Hell's Half Acre?
Helsinki we touched on a little bit earlier, but it was just
Yeah.
just about being from Fort Worth and like the old days and how there's still like remnants of where it's still like a pretty lawless place.
Okay.
Pretty,
All
pretty
right.
much, yeah.
And you know, I have to say too, I mean, as far as like you guys having out the 5 tracks on the EP, putting out the 2 songs recently, the shows still feel so sick. And I've been watching and kind of keeping up on like your guys' live sets and how you've kind of changed the sets, and you end the show with a different song. It seems like every video that I've seen, there's a different, you know, every different set you kind of change things up, beat the shit out of everybody, you know, starting with the javelin, which is ultra sick. But I love how you guys have little out right now, but it feels like it's just people are just wanting more, but it's still satisfying with what it is that we do have. I mean, bravo to the band, because it's
Thank
absolutely
you.
sick.
Thank you, dude.
Once again, next track being Neutralized. What can you tell us about this ripper?
Uh, Neutralize is it's about a street that's not too far from me, and it's just like probably the roughest spot of town, and it's just kind of like an area of, I mean, it's just rough, and it's always kind of been rough throughout the city's history, and just being around my surroundings and just writing a story about it, really.
Sure. Okay, sick.
Yeah.
Recently we have the 2 singles here. So Blast Furnace, which we kind of touched on, the music video, the treatment for, completely complimentary, so sick. What can you tell us about the track?
So Blast Furnace, I'm not gonna to name it, but there's a certain organization in Fort Worth that they like to kind of give themselves a pat on the shoulder about being like this, you know, we're liberating people, we're you know, taking people out of sex trafficking, and like trying to like rehabilitate them type situation. And it turned this whole entire situation where these people who were like coming out of sex trafficking, they were actually like being what's the word? They were being like, essentially this organization used them as speakers for one of their charities, and these from what I understand, these people never got compensated for the situation. So it was kind of
Oh
like
man,
the same cycle, just a different face. And
fuck.
it's just something I was like, man, that's like, that's fucked up. Like, how are you going to do that and call yourself like this righteous, so, organization and do this to these poor people? So, kind of a
Damn.
protest song for that organization. I won't
Yeah,
name them, but
yeah, for sure. No,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
I mean, and it's sick to hear, certain things like this, even, with it not having to be mentioned or anything like that. But I mean, the motherfuckers know who they are, first of all. So I
yeah,
mean, they can figure out themselves. But I think it's sick to be able to, it's a privilege as far as us, like in musicians and being able to have that, where we have that outlet of like, hey man, I've got something for you. We've got some
yeah,
sick riffs, and this song's gonna have a video treatment, and it's just for you.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Damn! Wow, that's insane. What about Standoff?
Standoff is another, I guess, say a history lesson on Fort Worth. It's about like one of the last gunfights that
Sick.
that
I love
happened in
that.
Fort Worth, and that was kind of like tied in with just being like standing on my own 2 feet, like standing off with someone, and like I'm not gonna back down type situation. Kind of cliche, but I mean, the story itself is crazy. It was the last gunfight in Fort Worth, and these two guys had been quarreling for years and years. And the guy just walked in and was like, let's just end this. And
Holy
they
shit!
they had a gunfight, and that was it.
Oh man!
Yeah.
And this was like, did the whole town kind of like congregated and everything, or was this just like a
Um,
one-on-one and
from what I remember from the story, the guy just walked straight into the bar and was like,
hard?
let's do this.
Man, dude,
Yeah,
that is so sick. Holy
yeah, it's
shit.
crazy.
I love it. Oh
I mean,
man,
I mean,
that's
you got to remember, like for me, it's like that wasn't too long ago. It was in the late 1800s, I think it was. Like that's not
it's
long ago.
insane.
Yeah,
Absolutely insane. Dude, and it's, I mean, it's just, kind of crazy when you think of all those things too, and you think of just the cow, like, I don't want to say cowboy, but that kind of era of things. And even like myself within having an interest in horror movies, there's a lot of times where there are different things that it's like kind of like a subcategory of it being Western or it being, kind of set in like that era. And it's like, dude, it's just so sick. And there's just something about like the outlaw kind of like spit on your boots, I don't give a shit who you are type mentality, where it's like, that's awesome.
yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah.
Oh shit, dude! This has been so sick, man. You guys just had these two shows. Does Fugitive have anything, or Skourge have anything on the horizon here as far as shows? Not anything that
So,
isn't announced, but
so right now, Scourge doesn't have anything announced. So we share a band. Remember the band Narrowhead? So
hmm.
they're gone quite a bit. So whenever they come back, we try to figure out shows as that goes along.
Okay.
Um, Narrow or sorry, Fugitive. We're playing Houston this next weekend, and then
Fuck yeah.
in a couple weeks, maybe a month, I can't remember. We're playing in Canada for the first time. We're playing Toronto and
Oh,
Montreal, and then
oh yeah, that's right. Okay.
after that, we're playing in Florida, I believe.
Oh,
And
oh shit.
I think actually in between there, we're playing Dallas again as well. We got some stuff coming up.
Who, who's on the bill for Florida, or is that not announced yet?
It's announced. It's let's see. There's I need to look at the flyer.
I was to
I
say,
can't think of
yeah.
this.
If
Heaven's
anything, I
Gate
can
is
pull it up
playing.
too.
Yeah, yeah. Heaven's Gate is playing out
Oh
of that.
shit.
Yeah,
Okay. Sick.
yeah.
It's awesome.
Protocol's playing.
Okay.
There's some sick bands playing. Yeah.
Dude, that's gonna be fucking awesome. That's so. And as a fan, like, I mean, like, I have to catch you guys live at some point. I'm gonna have to figure out something, whether it's flying out somewhere or whatever's going on. But dude, I have to say, thank you so much for taking the time today. I
Oh man,
was
thank you.
super psyched when you got back to me.
Oh man, thank you.
Been in love with the stuff, dude. So yeah,
Thank you.
you absolutely keep it up. With both bands, as long as you can manage it, and it's not, it's not too much. I know it's a big task, man, but you're doing great.
Yeah, I love it. It's great.
All right, Zoo. Thank you so much. Anybody who's just tuning in, I'll have this within like the next month or so up on YouTube and then on Spotify for like a podcast, type thing too. So yeah, man, this has been awesome. I really appreciate all the insight, and yeah, take care. Enjoy the
Thank
rest
you,
of the day,
dude.
dude.
You as well, man.
See ya.
You're so lo-fi, lo-fi, a horror guy, yeah. Lo-fi horror guy has been recorded in front of a live studio audience.